some dreams take a lifetime to build. They start as a vision, a hope, a quiet whisper in the heart that grows stronger over time. This is the story of Poverty Flats, a place that became more than just land, more than just a farm. It is the heart and soul of Val Hogan, built with love, resilience, and an unwavering dedication to animals who needed a second chance. Here, the animals find shelter, safety, and companionship. During the winter months, they stay in their cozy pastures, but when the mud dries up, they will roam the full 40 acres available to them, rotating through pastures, coexisting in the most beautiful and unexpected ways. At Poverty Flats, there are no rules about who should belong with whom. Healing happens in the most unexpected ways. A horse finds comfort in a pig. A dog befriends an emu. A llama lays beside a goat. The bonds formed here are proof that kindness knows no boundaries. And behind it all are the people who make this place possible. Meet Val Hogan and her daughter Sally, the heart and hands behind the sanctuary. This is their story.
Poverty Flats Farm and Sanctuary is a culmination of a lifetime dream of Valerie Hogan, me.
And why did you start Poverty Flats Farm and Sanctuary?
It was slow start. We just started taking in animals because we liked them. Ever since I was a little girl, I loved animals. I used to bring all kinds home, all kinds of animals home. I just have a calling.
Okay.
And growing up, I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I raised four siblings, and I always wanted to be a mom.
Oh, hi. Hey, light bulb. Light bulb.
I think light bulb wants your nose.
I think light bulb just
I know, look at you.
beanie. Beanie.
My children were and are my life. Now I had another reason to have animals, my girls. They develop strong skills. They empower, they build responsibility, confidence, and a truly beautiful way to look at life. In this time, I took care of 3 aging grandparents, which was a blessing in the end, but emotional at times. Kids developed the same empathy as from the animals. We eventually moved to my grandma Nita's house to help her. She had ranched with her husband on this ranch raising cattle. After Grandpa became really ill, the place had fallen into disrepair. She wasn't an animal person, she was utilitarian, but she came to realize that animals and living things and touch and care gave her purpose. The girls started 4-H. We started with 2 sheep, Tofu and Lentil, and they ran the place for a while. And then the girls got old enough for 4-H, and we started with 2 silly Angora goats and pigs. It was our first jump to farm animals. It was full ahead after that. We added horses, pigs, and more goats. I'd found my place and a way to help me and others. My husband Mike and I both worked full-time and had foster kids besides our 3 children. We all worked and bonded in various jobs and abilities. Mike worked away from home most of his time, but was very busy on visits home with projects. He was a construction superintendent, worked with big projects. At home, we worked on the valves, have a plan, or built this and that. People at work were far easier to control, but we pursued to where we are today. Both my daughters and their families live on the property. My son and wife in Bozeman, living the dream. My son was the rock. While his dad was gone, the girls had moved out, so it was just him and I. He was strong, loving, and patient. He too developed the eye roll when he heard me say, "I have a plan." We continued on slowly repairing, replacing small habitats. Grandma went into Alzheimer's with the animals. She would go for walks with two emu friends that seemed to understand. She would walk and talk with them as she ventured out around the farm. Since we had space, people would call to rehome animals they loved and didn't want killed, and then they became unable to care for. It provided, and still continues to provide, people with this peace of mind. People of all ages started stopping out to visit. Fast forward to present, I'm getting concerned about my dream and purpose continuing. I believe it can if we can. A special thanks to Mike for putting up with me and my crazy ideas.
He isn't really jealous. He only likes it if Hey there. Label's very friendly. Hey Label. Light Barb. You always get it.
Horses have always been my primary passion. But I've always, like, I showed goats, and that was really fun to get to take my goats, go to do the goat shows and horse shows sometimes in the same weekend. But yeah, this I've always used as a horse trainer, being able to work with the horses that just need that extra care. So not necessarily having to start them from the ground up and having them as foals and being their first start, but being the ones that struggled with the training methods or situations they were in and kind of finding what works for them. And so that's kind of always been my specialty, or my favorite space about it. And it's really cool to see all the different personalities, and I think that's a piece that's really carried for me professionally as a teacher. Being able to look at nonverbal cues, read the situation, communicate what else and problem solve to get to the end result. And just being able to reward positive behaviors, and just everything is so unique and situations are so different. So for all the animals out here, we had some of our first early rescues. We had horses that came in from other sanctuaries that were emaciated and like lice infested and counting all their ribs, and it was pretty rough to see that. But then it was really cool to see them kind of come back around. So I think just that, yeah, the overall empathy and being able to understand their situation and being able to feel like the level of compassion and perseverance and dedication it takes to be able to take care of all of them. And just like as a kid, like I wouldn't have traded my childhood for anything. It was awesome to be able to have the opportunity to be around and be responsible for all of the animals. And that was a big part too of caring for, I'm really fortunate to have had, like, I knew my great grandparents, and to be able to have that experience and have the opportunity to see and help care for them in their later years and just getting to know them. And that's something generationally that's really important, particularly in moving to a 501c3 is like I get to, and us moving back home to Eureka is bringing my family here, being able to have it generationally and the opportunity that my kids get to have.
Developing ranch kids.
Is that, yeah. So that my kids get to play in the dirt. They get to have the freedom to be outside and be themselves. And also, like, both of my kids are really, really strong, hardworking kids. But the confidence that they get, and yeah, that the empathy and compassion piece, you can't really match that in any other way. You know, it's something that animals just bring out. And it's really cool to see both of my kids connect in different ways with different animals, and just how they step into the opportunity to lean in, especially when we've had some animals come in that have been like thin or have injuries or things like that, and that they don't hesitate. They're just like, well, this is what we need to do to take care of it, and problem solving, all of that. So it's been pretty cool to see my kids just step in and thrive, which is much different than what we were, living in the Flathead we had wonderful situations there, but different than being able to be this as every day. My youngest in particular, so Ava, she's gotten much more, her 4-H life has expanded to every species.
She really loves animals. You could just hear it in her excitement in her voice.
She really does.
Oh, Pearl, you don't even care if I lean on you.
And she struggles
Oh.
socially and with people sometimes, her peers. But it's one of the things that she's shy and won't necessarily speak until you ask her about her horses or her goats or chickens. And right now she's got chickens and rabbits that she's catching, like hoping they're all going to keep laying eggs, and she's got a brood of bunnies in her bedroom so they can get moved outside. And yeah, she's a heavy pigeon egg collector.
Oh yes.
So, and the bravery, the other, the piece that both of my kids are pretty timid in personality, and since moving back to the farm, back for me, but for the first time for my kids, the level of confidence that they now have is far exceeding what they had. And that's just, that's been just about 2 years. It'll be 2 years in June that we moved back. So it's been a really cool space just to see them gain that confidence in themselves and the ability to and also innately see things that need done. So whether it's like, oh, I see somebody getting ready to walk through a gate and I'm going to run and open the gate for them, or recognizing that the fence is down, so we need to put it back up, or I need to let somebody know if I can't do it myself, or just some of those, just what seems like it would be basic common sense that a lot of people don't have the opportunity to experience that anymore. And so that's something that's really important. And even in bringing kids out here, other kids, and when school's coming out, or occasionally we get volunteers to come out and help too. It's cool to see them, just the recognition of like, close the gate behind you, or whatever animals are on this side of the fence need to, if they're on this side to start with, they should still be on that side when we're done. And just, you know, picking up twine as you're walking by, because we also, one of the things from it being a ranch for so long, we're still, like, every time you dig into the ground, there's still things, old farm stuff. You know, the circumstances for each of these animals is so different. Like, we're fortunate that we don't have as many of, like, the heavy, like, horror story rescues currently. But we do end up with horses that, you know, their owners got sick and they couldn't care for them, and they didn't have family that could care for them, or they had people that were caring for them that didn't actually, you know, said, I'll help you because you're sick, but also I know nothing about this animal, and they didn't necessarily know what to do or how to care for them properly, or, you know, families that had, you know, life circumstances. Life happens, and, like, people shouldn't have to feel guilty that they can't, you know, we don't want to have anybody, like, get, you know, just take it, you know, get animals to have animals. You should be able to be committed to them for their life. But also life changes, and if you don't have, you know, being able to have an option without the shame piece of it, that's a huge deal, because all that life happened, you know. And so that makes it really cool to see how they all come up about. Hi, Cooper. And we do try to rehome. So one of our stipulations for rehoming animals is that they kind of have a lifetime return policy. So that we can give families and people the opportunity too to be like, hey, like, goats is a really big one where people are like, I really want goats, and then you find out they're actually more maintenance than you thought, or they're just a little more difficult, or we're not really set up for fencing, or different stories. Training he had, you know, he got to help a kid be kind of this kid's first horse, and you know, we knew initially that particular kid was going to get too tall for him too soon, but also they were perfect for each other to be able to have the opportunity to be well taken care of. So it worked out really well for Cooper to have a kid and have the opportunity to do something and be kind of active and useful for the summer. And then he's kind of looking for his next home, but we also really have to screen those homes